Hello everyone. So this is going to be a fun video where I'm going to share how I use ChatGPT to manage my money. Now there are three pillars of money that I need management on. The first one is the income. What are the revenue streams? How can I diversify them? The second one is expenses, just to keep a track of how I'm spending my money. And the third one is investing, which is my portfolio, which is the final net worth that I've invested after I've taken care of my expenses and so forth. So all of those three areas I managed through ChatGPT, and there's a lot of ways that I use this. So let's get started just to test this out and see how this thread is. So for example, what were my top categories of expenses? And this is, I'm just keeping it open-ended like in the past, like what are the things that I'm spending the most money on? If I have to just calculate this and just get a clear picture of this without having to go into the Google Sheets and so forth. So 27.5% of my expenses is food and drink, which is essentially the biggest category of expense. Then it's health, which is 18.26%. And this is interesting because I club anything like a massage or a sauna or a gym membership and all of those things which I spend on into health, and same goes for my family, which is great. I actually am happy that this is like almost 20% of the expense. And then my daughter, around 20%, which is for, actually most of that is for the school fees, but 20% is pretty much, and then there's 12%, which is the household. It is not rent because I actually do have my own apartment. So there is some clarification, of course, that, I keep training ChatGPT on, but overall, this helps me get an overall picture of, in total, okay, let's say on average, how much is my monthly expense on health, right? So this will give me an idea of how much I spend on a month-on-month basis on health. And that comes to around 18.26%. It also takes the data from each month. Now, remember, this is all in million Vietnam dong. So it sounds like a lot, but in Indian rupees, it's going to be different. So that comes to around 6 million, right? So 6 million Vietnam, 6 million VND is how much in USD or INR? So I often will switch between these currencies, but I also can train ChatGPT to just talk in a single currency. But since the expenses are made in Vietnam dong, I do like to have them in Vietnam dong, and I can always calculate going back like what that amount is going to be. So it's around 20,000 rupees a month, not very high for health, which is around $245 into health. Now there's other things that I can do. How is my investing portfolio split between large cap, mid cap, and small cap? The good thing is I can continue talking to the same thread without having to switch between one platform to another platform, from one sheet to another sheet. And since I don't make any huge changes on a daily or weekly basis, I just have to train the data, train the algorithm on a month-on-month basis. So this is how it looks, right? So large cap is currently 57%, mid cap is 25%, small cap is 12%, and then gold and silver is around 5%. Now, it also knows the goals that I have in my investment portfolio, which I've covered, by the way, in my entire portfolio goals video, where I've shown my entire portfolio and how I want to reduce the large cap to 50%, maintain the mid cap at 25%, increase the small cap to 20%, and maintain the metals at 5%. So it also calculates the amount that I need to invest on a month-on-month basis in order to hit my goal of getting to 20% for small cap, which is great because in order to manually do this, I would have to run a lot of calculations. So let's work on that goal. How much do we currently have in small cap? And how much should we have invested in small cap by the end of this year, right? So just to have a clear calculation here, we are working on this together. So I almost take AI with me wherever I go. So I almost like have it as a side buddy all of the time so that I can do all of these calculations without having to use a lot of my manual effort. So current small cap investment is around 12%, which is since the total equity portfolio is 3.4 CR. Now you guys have some extra information in this video, which is 43% of my total assets. Therefore, the amount invested in small cap is approximately this much, right? So, which is exactly true. I have 65 lakh rupees in small cap, as you might have seen in the other videos where I've showcased my portfolio. Now, target the small cap allocation to 20%. That's the target. Currently, it's 12%. So, does all of the calculations and says you have a gap and you need to invest this much more by the end of the year, which comes to around 38 lakhs by the end of the year. So you're already investing a additional 5 lakhs per month. It knows this, and it says over the next 3.5 months, this would bring in so much amount. Now, by the way, I will make a separate video on this, but I haven't started this yet, but I am actually considering making my first investment in a small cap index fund. And that's going to be different from what I've done so far. I've always used active funds for small cap, but now there's a huge amount that I want to invest in the market, and maybe I don't want to invest too much into the active funds. So step by step, as the portfolio grows, there may be sometimes a need for additional diversification, which is what I'm still thinking about. And I'm considering that as an option to have a small percentage into a small cap index fund. So very clear goals here. There's an adjusted plan that I can work on. Increase your monthly small cap investments by an additional this much. Make a lump sum to meet the target more immediately. Now, would you prefer... Now, I'm open to both. I'm open to having an SIP, and I'm also open to doing a lump sum to hit this target. So I'm just going to say I'm open to both, and let's see what kind of plan it comes up with. Right? So increase the allocation to this much. By the way, this 5 lakhs a month additional is also not an SIP. It's like just a planned investment that I'm doing on a month-on-month basis. But I'm just going with the flow to show you how ChatGPT can work on all of these plans and everything. Now, let's take another shot at this. And this time we're going to approach from a different perspective, okay? So let's try now working on the income aspect. So you do understand how my business works. And in terms of the revenue and the expenses, you understand my profit margins. I want you to make projections for my business for the next year because there's only one quarter left for 2024 to end. So I want you to make projections quarter on quarter for the next year based on the performance that we have so far and based on the data that you have so far over the past years from my business. Also, keep it short and make sure you focus on the key goals for every quarter and break them down by month. So now I'm asking it to work on the business. And this switch is something I really enjoy. You know, I have certain goals for my small cap investments, and I can trace it back to how much money do I need to make from the business, for example. And now it's going to start working on my business. So it says, these are the quarterly projections. By the way, if you're a business owner, this is September 2024. You must be doing your projections for 2025 right now. You don't have to wait till December. The reason why you want to do that is because the Q4 also has to be adjusted based on your next year's goals, right? So here's what it says. Q1 2025, your projected revenue is going to be around $20,000 a month and profit margins around 50 to 55% from historic data. This is a consistent range that I have for early months, which means towards the first quarter. Now, this is very important because to do this analysis, again, it would take me time, have to go through sheets. I'm able to get this data based on historical data. Now, just so that you know, I've trained this thread on data about my business since 2021, on data about my expenses since the last probably 10 months, and the data about my investment portfolio, basically my entire net worth. So it has a lot of data because of which it is going to give me. So if you're scared of giving data to ChatGPT, this tutorial is not for you. But if you're okay with that, because for me, I even share my data on YouTube videos, so I'm not really scared about sharing data. But for someone who is and who's someone who believes in privacy, you might have to create different kinds of sheets just to feed into the data. But I just give my entire database to ChatGPT. So what are the key goals? Now, the key goals is probably have a digital product to increase the passive income, because they also know, like the thread also know, that I don't want to increase too much of my active income because that means I'll have to work more hours. And instead of that, I might want to work more hours initially so that I can have passive income consistently. Strengthen affiliate partnerships, because it also knows that my affiliate income is not very consistent. So it wants to make it consistent. And then introduce additional services maybe for the agency and consulting. So it knows exactly which business to focus on, which is great, right? And then it slowly increases the revenue from 19 to 22 to 22 to 24. So it's not a crazy increase. And I believe that it also knows that I don't want to go very aggressive. So those are the kinds of things that, it can do. And it knows, for example, that I work in D2C e-com. So there's going to be Black Friday, there's going to be Diwali for the Indian clients. And all of those things will help. And then it's focusing on revenue diversification, optimizing profit margins, and scaling the efforts. So let's now dig into the past data again. How much do I usually spend on the business on a monthly basis? Now, this is important because if I know my expenses, I can prepare my credit cards and so forth. I can feed that data as well into the thread. But it says, for example, based on the data from 2024, you are spending 7,000 to 12,000 now, which is a huge variation, right? Which is true in business because that's how business works. I want to understand how this has changed over the years, right? So just to understand how the business expenses have changed over the years, that's another question that I'm just following up on. So for example, in 2021, my monthly expenses were just $4,500 to $7,500 for my business. 2022, I was spending $6,000 to $9,000. 2023 was a mixed bag, and this is the year that we had more variation. 2024 is when I spend the most, so $7,000 to $12,000 a month. So this gives you like an average, gives you, you can even make like, can you plot this data into a chart or table, like into a summary thing, whether it's a chart or a table, so that I can just understand and visualize it. But more importantly, I think the point here is that if you've trained the thread well enough, then you're able to can you make a chart as well? Get quick input, and you don't have to run through a lot of different sheets. Now, similarly to Money Manager, I also have my Health Manager, which is there's a Meals Manager, which I use to create recipes based on my macros, based on my protein requirements and so forth. There's a Fitness Manager, Wellness Manager, sort of, which helps me build workout routines because it has all of the data, what I want to achieve. That's exactly what a fitness coach would do. But then I'm using ChatGPT in all of those ways. So if you, by the way, want to see all of that, and maybe you want to see a complete ChatGPT course from me, just let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to make that one for you. So if there is a lot of interest in that, be happy to show more. But yeah, this is some input that it gives for sheets, etc. to make. But yeah, I think now let's go back to an interesting point. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the microphone again. Now I want you to give me a snapshot of my real estate investments and see ideally what kind of cash flow should we be generating from the real estate investments, because I want to benchmark it against my current cash flow. And what should be the goals in our real estate investments, considering that I'm 34 years old and I still have more potential to invest more in equity, but I'm using real estate not as my favorite mode of investment, but just as a way of diversification as my portfolio size increases. So now I'm asking it to actually work on my real estate stuff. Just going back a little bit from the business stuff, I've got an idea of my minimum and maximum expenses. So I just want to keep that in mind, that next year probably I might be spending $12,000 to $14,000 a month on my business. Now it comes back to the real estate. So your real estate investment is 18.9% of your total assets. Now you guys know my total assets now because of this video. That's great. Which I allocated to real estate, which amounts to 1.5 crores current situation. Yeah, this is one thing with ChatGPT. I think we can change this, but it usually gives the Indian formatting, it gets wrong. So you do have to read it twice to understand what the amount is. But yeah, I think I can ask it to change that. Let's try that after this. But then overall, the amount is 1.5 CR, which is 18.9% of the total portfolio. Now, it's benchmarking cash flow from real estate. And however, of course, the cap rate is around 5 to 10%, which is a huge range. But at 5% cap rate, it analyzes, that roughly 63,000 per month I should make in cash flow. While it's doing the comparison, if you're generating less than this much, 63,000, it's below the 5%. If it's significantly lower than this much, then you are not reaching the benchmark on the cash and cash. So the point is, this is a good benchmark for me to compare against. Now, it could have compared with my current numbers, but I have not given the information about cash flow to ChatGPT yet because I'm waiting for a few months for my new apartment to sort of reach that stage where I understand how much cash flow I'm making from Airbnb for the new apartment. Once that's done, because I got the new apartment this year, just a few months ago, once that's done, I'm going to give that input to ChatGPT as well. And then it's going to tell me this is how you're comparing against the benchmark. Real estate diversification is very interesting. Since you're more focused on equity, real estate should remain around 25% of your total portfolio. Now, as my income increases, as my equity investment increases, it will take time to catch up with real estate because every investment needs more money, right? If I have a few lakh rupees, I can just put them in equity, but a few lakh rupees, I cannot just immediately put them in real estate. So I'll still have to hold cash and wait it out. Of course, REITs and other alternatives are there, but I'm not very interested with REITs. You might want to diversify real estate holdings geographically beyond Vietnam and India, especially in markets where rental yields are higher. Now, by the way, I don't have real estate in India, so this is a clarification that I need to make. Current real estate holdings are all in Vietnam. Vietnam rental yield is actually definitely much better than India. So I'm holding the real estate here while the equity growth is much better in India. So I hold the equity there. It's like wherever things are best, you just go there, right? But yeah, so rental yield, it's calculating at around 4.6%. So mine is slightly more because I'm in a tourist area. I'm in a tourist city. I'm not in these cities. I'm not in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. And since it's a tourist city, especially on weekends, the prices can go really high because a lot of people from Ho Chi Minh will come here for the weekend break. So it's very expensive on weekends, and hence, the Airbnb stuff works out for us. So far, so good. So these are all good ways that it's helping me in, also building a real estate portfolio while focusing on equity. But now we're going to jump back to equity and let's start another thread about equity. Now let's go back to focus on my equity portfolio in India. I want you to give an overall snapshot of my equity holdings in India. Now, just remember that this snapshot, whatever it's going to generate, is going to be from August, right? So this video I'm making in September. So whenever you're making the video, it will be based on your last update. I just update the thread with data every month. And I don't really care to update it less or more than that because, again, I'm in the long-term game. Honestly, the portfolio changes every day, but on a month-on-month basis is where I see a bigger change because I also invest. So if I'm putting 10 lakhs, 15 lakhs in one shot in the market, that's the time I'll update the data. Otherwise, I'll just keep it. So equity holdings are, how much is that? Yeah, it's 3.4 crores. Large cap, 57%, mid cap, 25%, small cap, 12%, and then it's giving the amounts. Now it's saying that Nifty 50 holds a significant portion, which is large cap. Next 50, also large cap, more diversified, just like the next 50 companies. Wouldn't say more diversified, but yeah, the next 50 companies. Mid-cap 150, your primary mid-cap holding. So most of my mid-cap money is in mid-cap 150Bs. So it's got a clear idea. Index funds are my main holdings. Within the index funds, Nifty 50, next 50, mid-cap 150. Then within the mutual funds, Kotak Emerging is one of my main mid-cap funds. PJ, again, these are not recommendations. I'm just reading it out so that, we see what kind of results we are getting here. Then there's stocks, which I don't invest in, but these are the ones that I already have. Large cap focus, you have bulk of your equity into large cap, which is sort of the thing that we want to change a little bit. I mean, large cap is still going to be my major holding. I'm a pretty safe person, but when it comes to mid cap, it's pretty good, whatever it is. And then small cap is something where we have exposure with Nippon India Small Cap Fund, some SBI Small Cap Fund. I'm not sure if this is completely accurate. I might have got SBI Small Cap Fund sometime, very small amount, but it may not be my biggest holding. So I'm not going to go 100% by this, by the way, but just so that it could be off sometimes. It might have seen this in my holdings, but I might have got it sometime and then just left it out there, right? So the way that I train it on this data, by the way, is to export the data from console and then import it into this thread, right? So just attach the data here. So that's how it knows. But yeah, overall, the overall fundamentals and the goals are correct. So increase small cap exposure to this much, reduce large cap exposure, maintain mid cap exposure, and then maintain the 5% towards metals, right? So those are different ways that I use ChatGPT. There's also like, of course, goals. If I have to reach 10 crores in the next, let's say, by the end of 2025, what all action items would I need on all areas of my money? Let's keep this the final question, because I can go on and on with this. Income, expenses, and investments. Those are the three, right? IEI, income, expenses, and investments. Those are three main buckets with money, I feel. So to reach your 10 crores by the end of 2025, which, by the way, we are currently at 8 crores if you look at the overall portfolio. I'm not talking only about equity portfolio. You need to increase your revenue to 30 to 35 lakhs a month. I'm probably not going to do this. I think I will increase it a little bit by adding digital products. 10 lakhs a month for digital products is very easy. I just don't launch digital products because I like to do services more. Consulting and agency, scaling to 10 lakhs a month extra is much harder than digital products because they're not that scalable, right? But yeah, for now, I'm like enjoying this process. And then the passive income, I'm not really focused on YouTube ad revenue. It's hardly anything. So I'm going to just focus on affiliate marketing for the agency. And then business scaling, high ticket size clients, that's a good one to focus on. Target monthly savings of 10 to 15 lakhs. I think right now it's like 8 to 10 probably. We can also ask it for the current numbers. And then expense management, I think it's going to be pretty much maintaining at the current level. I like that. Business expenses, delegate lower value tasks, which I love. And then keeping the expenses at a stable level, focus on categories aligned with your family health and well-being, but review high cost. See, food is aligned with health. It's just like healthy food. That's why like we buy all these organic vegetables and stuff, right? So they are more expensive than regular vegetables. But apart from that, there's nothing crazy. Some protein powders, protein shakes, whatever. Like those are things. Cyber-related daughter's expense, I don't want to reduce that. Obviously, I might even increase that, if it's investing in her. That's the best return that you can get with your money is investing in your children. Not if you like, children is like the biggest expense. It's also the biggest return. Not for you, but for them, right? Cash flow, maintain a high savings rate, at least 30% of income into investments, for sure. Investment strategy, grow your portfolio from 8 crores to 10 crores by end of 2025. Requires a decent CAGR of 12 to 15% per year across all assets, which may not be very easy to accomplish. I think I might find it easier to make more money. That's something I always think is, could be easier to make more money than get these kinds of CAGRs. It may be possible as well. Increase small cap exposure, definitely. SIP strategy, review the portfolio. Yes, real estate 25%, I'm open to that. I think cash flow is something that I want to calculate once the apartment is a few months old. Expected results and then current net worth. Annual investments target 10 to 15 lakhs a month. Probably not going to increase my income too much, and hence this may not be possible. So let's just go back to this. Yeah, overall, I think the plan is good, but I don't want to increase my income too much right now. I don't want to introduce digital products immediately. I just want to focus on the consulting business. I'm going to keep my income to 25 to 30 lakhs a month. I may not go into the 30 to 35 lakhs level. Expenses, I don't want to reduce the expenses related to my daughter or related to Sayuri. And then investments, I think I agree with most of the points that you said, but you'll have to adjust it now to match the income staying at 25 to 30%. So just making sure that it knows that I'm probably not going to increase my income above 25 to 30 lakhs. 30 to 35 lakhs, basically that additional 5 to 10 lakhs, it's asking me to do with digital products like ebooks, courses and all. Right now, I'm not very interested in that. But yeah, maybe sometime in future. I'm not against it. I take a lot of online courses. It's completely, valuable. If it's valuable, it's valuable. If it's not, right? So, but yeah, otherwise, I think this is pretty good. Now, let's see what it's adjusted. Focus on high value clients. I like that. Client retention. I like that. This is a much better income plan compared to what it came up before. This is the kind of income plan I like because I enjoy working with clients. I want to give value to the clients. Client retention, love to have more cash flow from the same clients and retain them, right? So this will mean my annual income will become 3 to 3.6 CR if I keep this 25 to 30 lakhs. Action items, maintain the personal expenses. I like that. Optimize business expenses, perfectly fine with me. Investment strategy, revised investment, save and invest 10 to 12 lakhs a month. Probably doable. I'm currently doing a 2 lakhs SIP and 5 lakhs of manual investment on an average per month. So 7 lakhs a month, I can increase it to 10 to 12 lakhs. I think that's not hard. And then with real estate, I think for now, it's just about watching how the apartment goes, and then we'll have better data on that. So summary of the goals: income maintain at 25 to 30 lakhs a month, expenses keep current levels. I think I'm pretty happy with that. And then increase the investments and focus on increasing the small cap equity allocation. So that's all for this video. This is how I use ChatGPT to talk about money and to manage my money, because everyone needs someone to discuss their money matters with. And for me, this is the safest environment. Honestly, even despite me giving all the data, I prefer this than talking to a wealth manager who always wants to sell me a specific fund. So that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Ciao.